Hey, and welcome back to Wheat Beat. My name is Mike, and today you get to watch me hook up. Hook up my hood on the ceiling, of course. What did you think I meant? Okay, we're back for the final installment of my bakery hood setup. Last time we talked about getting the hood into the bakery and up on the ceiling, and in case you missed that whole thing, click the link up above to see that. And in case you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, I am building a bakery inside my house, and if you want to hear the whole story, you can go back and click this link to see the whole thing from the beginning. Now that we finally have the hood inside and up on the ceiling, the last thing we need to do is actually hook it up. Hook the duct to the hood and that duct to the roof. Now you would think this shouldn't be that big of a deal. I mean, we're towards the end now. I should be able to ask my HVAC, my heating and air conditioning contractors to do this for me, but alas, they don't want to touch it. They're just too scary for them. Why is it so scary, I ask? I don't really know. Basically, they feel like if they hook this thing up and I don't like the way they've made the connection, I am going to complain bitterly about it and tell them that they have to replace the whole thing at their cost, and they just don't want to take that liability. Of course, I told them many times, guys, this is just a commercial kitchen. I'm absolving you of all responsibility to make this look aesthetic. I simply want you to connect a pipe to this hood and connect the whole thing to the roof, but they would not hear anything about it. They refused. Just too scary. It's a good thing Halloween just passed. This was just too scary for them. So I ended up calling around to different commercial contractors to find somebody who could do this for me. And that was no easy feat either. I called probably 5 or 6 different companies that deal with it. Many of these contractors are not available, or they have a wait of a month or more to even talk to you and come out and look at the thing. I finally did find somebody who said he could get to it in the next 2 weeks, and finally scheduled him to come in. Now everything, as always, has been down to the wire because the roofers are up on my roof as we speak, and they're placing the roof, and they're going to be done by the end of the week. Now my priority was to get this roof fan and roof curb installed properly on my roof before the roofers finish, because if they don't get it done before then, the roofers will finish the roof, and then my installer will come in to put in this roof curb and duct and fan. He's going to have to make a new penetration in the roof, a fairly large one, which is going to make it more susceptible to leaks and problems. So I really, really, really want him to install everything to do with this hood and vent and fan and whatever, all of that stuff. I want it installed before the roofers finish. So using my pretty poor high school Spanish, I was able to explain to the roofer, can you please just hold off on this one section on the roof until after I install something there? And somehow I was able to communicate to him, and he's such a cool guy, and he's like, sure, no problem. So I have him holding off on this one spot until I can get this thing installed. And hopefully the commercial contractor shows up as promised and this all gets done. Otherwise, the roofer is going to finish, and this is going to be another one of those fiascos. And this morning, the HVAC guy, the commercial HVAC guy who's going to supposedly hook this all up correctly, is coming in. And I mean, he kept rescheduling and rescheduling. I'm here at the entrance to the construction site waiting for this elusive guy to come and help me. And hopefully he's going to show up here any minute, and we're going to get in right in time to that roof curb and get it done before the roofer has to finish his job. Drew from Idaho Air Innovations is here to rescue me and save the day. And hopefully we'll get this thing all hooked up today and we'll be in good shape. So yes, Drew showed up. He's a commercial contractor. He came in, looked at everything, looked at the hood, looked at the roof, spent basically 5 minutes doing all that and just shrugged his shoulder and said, sure, no problem. And oh my God, that was so refreshing, because I'd heard so many residential people him and ha and say, oh, it's so scary, it's so difficult, we don't know. And then Drew comes in and just says, sure. So I was stoked. The first thing Drew did is cut a hole in the hood where the new duct will attach. He used some kind of a welder cutter type of device. Then he used a grinder to smooth the hole out. And here's that new hole. Looking good. Now I'm up on the roof where he's already placed that roof curb. As a reminder, the roof curb is a part I ordered from Hood Mart, which is the interface between the fan and the roof. I can confirm now that the 3/12 pitched curb I ordered was right on. As you can also see, the roofer stopped right where I asked him to, so we did indeed get to this in the nick of time. Now, what I was also able to understand from the roofer was that he had some concern with this roof curb where you can see there's a weld between the flange and the vertical part of the roof curb. He thinks that there could be leakage there over time because that weld is imperfect. One of the things the roofer is working on and worried about right now is that as the water comes down over here on this flange, he's worried that some water could leak into this seam right here. Even though it's welded, he thinks it's not quite perfect enough, and there could be water flowing in there. So we talked about maybe putting some paper like that so that the water doesn't go all the way into that seam. And while they work on that, Drew is busy connecting the new 14-inch duct, replacing the 10-inch duct that we had originally, from the hood to the roof curb. And you can see that here. Okay, now Drew is mounting the curb to the roof, and the roofers are installing a metal cricket. It's called a cricket. Don't ask me why, but in this vulnerable area, that's where they're putting it, and that's what we looked at earlier. Basically, it's a folded piece of sheet metal that is snug up against the vulnerable weld there, and that will prevent any water leakage in that part of the roof curb. Here comes Drew with that downblast fan. As a reminder, this is the replacement fan Hood Mart sent me when the first one they sent me came damaged. Check out that last video if you want to know what happened with that damaged fan. Ultimately, we did much more than just a layer of paper over it. We ended up reinforcing it in multiple ways, and the way that the roofers installed it was as if it was a skylight. Skylight, of course, those big windows that you put in your roof so you have light in your space. So my recommendation to you is if you do install something like this in your house or even in a business, tell the installers to treat it like a skylight because they understand how that works in terms of waterproofing. And waterproofing something of this size is pretty important, and the installation is exactly the same as a skylight. So you might as well tell them to do it that way. Then you know it gets done right. All right, so the big stuff's been done. They put in this L-looking panel, or I'm not sure what to call this, and that way in that crease area they're not going to have any water penetration. Water's going to go off the sides and down the roof. They've secured this to the roof. They've also put some of this paper or the roofing shingle material underneath this, so if anything does get through, I mean they kind of went all out to try to make sure this is waterproofed correctly. The downblast fan is now secured onto the roof curb, so now all they have to do is just finish shingling all the way up and past this up to the roof edge, the roof top there, and then this thing will have been installed and ready to go. The only other thing we're going to be adding down inside is some kind of a damper, so that way in the winter when freezing air is getting up in here, it's not making its way down into the kitchen. There's going to be a damper that stops that there. So over here you can see the new 14-inch pipe that Drew just installed for us, and down there you can't really see it, but there are the other 2 points of connection to the ceiling for the hood. So that's it for now. Drew's going to come back and put in a damper so that cold air doesn't rush into the house from the roof. He's going to do that later, but right now what we needed to get done was done, and as far as I'm concerned, this vent hood is 90% complete. Other than the damper, the electricity has to run to the fan, and the control module for the fan speed has to be installed. But other than that, those are all minor things that can be done later. There's rain coming in a few days, so I'm super glad that this has gotten done. Here's also the old 10-inch pipe that Drew took out that was in the ceiling that he had to remove before he put in the 14-inch pipe. So that's garbage now. All right, here we are a few days later. First of all, I'm happy to report no leaks after we had a ton of rain, so that's a good start. Here you can see they finished the shingles all around. It looks like they did a really nice, clean job. They also painted everything black to comply with the homeowner association requirements. Here's that cricket we talked about that they installed to further waterproof the vulnerable weld in the roof curb. They also added some sealant on top of the cricket for good measure. So this turned out great, and I'm a happy, happy camper, or baker. Anyhow, thank you for joining me for another episode of my video progress of my bakery. The next thing happening is they're going to install tile on the floor and the walls, and electrical is going to come in and do some of their finish work. My next video is going to be about makeup air. What's makeup air? Well, join me next time and find out. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button so I know that you like what I'm doing for you here and that I'm giving you useful information. So please do that. And until next time, go bake something.